Also live on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. We're live on W 93.5 in Wa and beyond. My name is Alfred Ocansey. This evening, former Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta no longer a wanted man and a fugitive from justice as Office of Special Prosecutor removes him from the wanted list. We'll tell you exactly why in that statement issued by the Office of Special Prosecutor some minutes ago here on Hot Edition. Also, declare your assets by March 31 or risk losing your jobs. That's according to President John Mahama as he formally declares his assets with the Auditor General. Also this evening, President Mahama gives the strongest indication of prioritizing the ideas and recommendations arising from a National Education Forum which kicked off today at Ho in the Volta region. Communications Minister directs the National Communications Authority to take immediate enforcement action against 6 broadcast entities for operating without valid authorization. We have details of that here on Hot Edition. Also, the Communications Ministry has also directed the immediate shutdown of Goma FM in Boko following an urgent national security concern raised by the Upper East Regional Security Council. Details of this plus the latest in business and sports over the next 1 hour 30 minutes here on Hot Edition. Also live on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. We're live on W 93.5 in Y and beyond. We'll give you the latest as well in Parliament. A single case of human metapneumovirus virus recorded in Ghana. That's according to the Health Minister. We've got details and updates on the CSM as well and matters arising, plus also measures put in place to deal with this cholera outbreak. There's been an update that the minister has been giving in Parliament. Details of that shortly. Stay with us. But now, settle for the summary of the news. Grace Hamwa Agyeman is here.
Alfred, let's begin from the National Education Forum because President John Mahama has pledged to prioritize recommendations from the National Education Forum, which began on February 18. An 8-member committee led by Professor George K.T. Odro has been tasked with gathering ideas nationwide and submit a comprehensive plan within 2 weeks. The president has also ordered all government appointees to declare their assets by March 31, 2025 in compliance with Act 550/1998 on asset declaration. He warned that failure to comply could result in dismissal. And the Office of the Special Prosecutor has removed former Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta from its wanted list after he communicated a definite return date to the jurisdiction. Mr. Ofori-Atta had previously been declared a fugitive for failing to report to the OSP for interrogation regarding suspected corruption cases. The World Health Organization has donated 10,000 vials of medication to support meningitis treatment in northern Ghana, catering to approximately 300 patients. WHO country representative Dr. Frank Lule has urged affected communities to seek early medical care, while Health Minister Kwabena Minta-Kando is set to brief Parliament on the ongoing cholera and meningitis outbreak, which he did earlier today. And finally, to tackle the annual dry season tomato shortages, the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, through its Food System Resilience Program, has launched interventions to boost tomato production. Research scientists at the Crops Research Institute are developing improved tomato varieties, while 1,500 farmers under the FSRP Norwegian Tomato Scheme will receive inputs and training. The initiative aims to produce 10,000 metric tons of tomatoes in the first quarter of 2025. That's it for the summaries.
Grace, thank you. This morning is on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com. This is Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7, also on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. We're live on W 93.5 in Wa and beyond. We're just getting some breaking news coming through right now here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. This is some breaking news coming through hot on the plate.
Breaking news on 3FM 92.7.
Some Some news just coming through. Health Minister Kwabena Kando has reported an ongoing cholera outbreak which began over 5 months ago. Grace, the death toll has risen to 49, and as we speak now, we're also getting information that some 719 confirmed cases as well have come through, and the latest is that another region has also recorded some cases of a cholera outbreak. We're going to give you details of that shortly here on Hot Edition. But the Office of Special Prosecutor has formally removed Ken Ofori-Atta, the former finance minister, from its wanted list. On 12 February 2025, the Special Prosecutor declared Ken Ofori-Atta a wanted person and a fugitive from justice on the ground that he had failed to indicate a reasonable time of his return to the jurisdiction, despite being informed by the special prosecutor that he was a suspect in various suspected corruption and corruption-related cases, and was required to report himself physically to the OSP in Accra on a specified date and time for interrogation. Let's take a listen to Kesia Jabeng, the special prosecutor, when he made that announcement sometime last week.
That the purported medical letter transmitted by Mr. Ofori-Atta through his lawyers to the OSP represents a medical report to the effect that Mr. Ofori-Atta is incapacitated or is so sickly and invalid to the extent that he is physically unable to return to the jurisdiction without imperiling his life. No serious law enforcement agency, and certainly not the OSP, will be convinced that the purported medical letter stops it from demanding the physical appearance of Mr. Ofori-Atta before it in the described circumstances. We are of the firm conviction here that this is only a ruse employed by Mr. Ofori-Atta in aid of his intention to avoid returning to the jurisdiction and to personally answer questions in respect of the investigations. We are convinced that the real intention of Mr. Ofori-Atta is what was communicated to the OSP in the very first letter transmitted by his lawyers on 31 January 2025. That is, he has left the jurisdiction indefinitely. That was what was communicated to us at the first instance, and that is his intention. He has no intention of willingly returning to the jurisdiction. That much is clear to us. Consequently, ladies and gentlemen of the media, the OSP declares Kenneth Nanaya Ofori-Atta a wanted person. He is a fugitive from justice. The OSP will take all necessary legal steps to secure his return to the jurisdiction and attendance at the OSP. And this is to Mr. Ofori-Atta. You have two choices. You can either return to the jurisdiction voluntarily, or the OSP will enforce your return.
That's Kesia Jabeng, the special prosecutor there. Earlier today, February 18, 2025, Ken Ofori-Atta transmitted a communication through his lawyers to the special prosecutor by which he stated a definite date of his voluntary return to the jurisdiction. This marks a major shift from Ken Ofori-Atta's previous intention of remaining outside the jurisdiction indefinitely. The special prosecutor has since ceded to Ken Ofori-Atta's request, and it deemed his stated date of voluntary return to jurisdiction reasonable in the circumstances at play right now. The removal of Ken Ofori-Atta from the wanted list of persons paves the way for his expected engagement with authorities once he returns, marking a new phase in the legal proceedings as well. Now, let's get into the statement that came through from the special prosecutor giving details of this particular development. Grace Agyeman is still with me. Grace, what exactly is the special prosecutor's statement saying beyond what we're learning now?
Yes, Alfred. So what is interesting about this statement is the heading. The heading is just the name of the former finance minister, Kenneth Nanaya Ofori-Atta, pasted boldly there on that release from the Office of the Special Prosecutor. It gives us a background of what we know as we heard from the OSP saying initially. And then what has changed in this release is that initially the lawyers of the former finance minister did not communicate a definite date of return by their client. But this new reports or this new release by the OSP says that the lawyers have transmitted a definite report date, which is likely to be in May. And so instead of the OSP saying, we don't know when he's coming to come back and we don't believe the medical reports that he sent us, now his lawyers are saying he's likely to return in a definite date somewhere in the month of May, which is like 2 or 3 months from now. And so the OSP says because of the certainty of the return of the finance minister, he is no more wanted. The communication is now what we can describe as smooth. The OSP is sure that the former finance minister is going to return to the jurisdiction. The last but one paragraph of the report says, consequently, Mr. Ofori-Atta has been removed from the OSP's list of wanted persons, and the OSP ceases to consider Mr. Ofori-Atta a fugitive from justice pending his voluntary return to the jurisdiction and his slated date. If Mr. Ofori-Atta fails to voluntarily return to the jurisdiction via his stated date, and if Mr. Ofori-Atta fails to attend the OSP on the rescheduled date, he shall be re-entered on the OSP's list of wanted persons, and the OSP shall then consider him a fugitive from justice, and the OSP shall take all necessary legal steps to secure his return to the jurisdiction and attendance to the OSP at our own choosing. The OSP is committed to its mandate of ensuring accountability guided by due process and fairness.
Some interesting detail there, and Grace Agyeman with that. And you find the full complement of it on our Facebook page at 3FM927. If you log on to our Facebook page, 3FM927, you see the full details of this story, the statement that we just read to you. Edem Senanu is the co-chair of the Citizens Movement Against Corruption. He's joining us on the telephone. In fact, he's been with us for a while now. Mr. Senanu, good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening.
And I think first off, to start out, congratulations to you. It's in order for successfully being re-elected to serve on the African Union Advisory Board Against Corruption. Congratulations to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Alfred.
Perfect. Now, hearing the details of this statement from the special prosecutor, how does it strike you, first of all, especially because of the first instance and the position that he took after Colonel Ofori-Atta's first communication through his lawyers about seeking medical care abroad?
Well, I'm actually very happy that the special prosecutor stuck to his guns, because it's very clear that it would be untenable for any citizen invited by the security agencies of this country to say that I'm not available now and I am indefinitely unavailable, which is what happened in the first instance. If you put yourself in the shoes of any security agency, that would not be acceptable. So I was surprised that anybody would even dare to write to suggest that I am not available and I don't know when I'll be available. If anything, you immediately show up, or else you negotiate a date to make yourself available. Now, it was not made any better when subsequently the medical report that was submitted only said that this is our client and there's something happening in March, without giving an indication of, because we all know if you're traveling for any medical intervention, typically they'll tell you the period of testing, they'll tell you if the test is positive or negative. We're then going to surgery will take you so much and you need to plan for so many weeks, because there's cost involved. So it was again surprising that medical report didn't give an indication of when does this end, and then you can now say, okay, I'll return, and then to make it worse, they proceeded to accuse the OSP of raiding the house. And it was curious for me that even though the OSP said two things, he said this is either a staged thing or an imposter action. For whatever reason, we seem to have run with just the staged part of it. The OSP says it was staged. But the OSP has said two things. It's either this was staged because we know we didn't do it, or else somebody is an imposter pretending to be the OSP, and then we ran with a narrative which was odd. I am glad they stuck to their guns, and I'm even much more delighted that eventually the lawyers saw good reason to go back and negotiate. And they've done the right thing. Get the date, because that's really what the security agency needs. When are you going to make yourself available? And once that was done, I'm not surprised that Mr. Kisi Agyeman has now decided to take him, if at least not temporarily, off the fugitive list.
Well, but if you look at, as we move the conversation forward, yes, now we know of a date, but if you look beyond that, there is that issue about the corruption-related offenses that he's been charged with. These are cases that have been running for quite a while. And, for instance, the Cathedral, SML, these are investigations that one would say already the details of it were out over a year or two ago, and the special prosecutor was expected to have moved quite faster than it did. In what form should this investigation or engagement with him take, especially because the general public already have some knowledge about the outcomes of investigations or audits instituted into some of these cases that he's being charged with?
Well, I think this, first of all, they say the wheels of justice grind slowly, but eventually you get justice, being prosecuted. My mind tells me that the engagement probably would be focusing on the breaches and violations of existing laws and administrative processes. And I'm clear because if you look at the cases that have been mentioned, the specific laws or policies that were not followed to the hilt. And one would wonder how come the minister failed to take specific actions, or in spite of these laws, took specific actions. So I can understand that before you draw a conclusion on the level of culpability of the minister or those associated with him, you want to do that engagement to be clear that, look, this is what I did, this is not what I did, and so on and so forth. So I think it's important as a matter of this natural justice. And sometimes you never know what the experts will do in terms of interpreting body language, etc., which is important to drawing the right conclusions. So I'm not too surprised that they are insisting come for a one-on-one so that we can then, get your own data. Because if they're going to make a case and they want to decide whether to go to court or to retrieve anything else, it's important that this platform is provided to the former minister to speak on the specific issues.
Hold on a bit for me, Sano, if you will, please. And let me bring in Lawyer Martin Pebo, is private legal practitioner, a member of the oral preparatory team. They've done their work, submitted it to the president. Joining us now. Counsel, good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, you can see.
You heard the position of Sedam Senano there on the special prosecutor's work on at least 3 of the cases from the 5 that he has pointed Mr. Ofori-Atta in terms of his involvement in those cases as a subject of investigation of corruption-related offenses. Now, he says that the wheels of justice grind slowly, and so the OSP might just be dotting the I's and crossing the T's. Reason why, even though some of these cases, the details of it are public knowledge, he did not start earlier than now. How does that strike you?
Hey, when you say he did not start earlier than now, let's be specific. Is that to say Kisi Agyeman started the investigation just soon after the elections?
Well, no, he didn't start soon after the elections. He had indicated that, at least when we spoke to Samir Dakun, who is in the office, he said they had been engaging some of the persons, for instance, like Manasseh in the SML case, before the elections, but it's only now that they're coming out publicly on it.
This is not clear enough. Maybe, I don't think I should comment on it, lest it becomes the facts turn out. Because the simple answer I wanted is, are we saying OSP started after the election? If we are not getting clarity, then maybe we shouldn't comment. Otherwise, later I may bring other things and they will say we're unfair to them. Because for me, this thing was too glaring in the public. And I always refer to the new hands OSP got, minimum 180, because we were giving clearance for 230. And I keep saying at least, even if not at least, at most 50 would decline. Most. In Ghana, that there are no jobs. I even wonder if 50, but I mean, for the sake of argument, let's say if 50 decline, then they should have 180. So I think we should leave it at that, especially when we don't have the specific date on this, on when they started. I think, yes, we can go with the previous arguments we've had on this matter. You see, a broad section of us have shown that on this particular matter, it is impossible to side with the OSC on the issue of the declaration of Oforiatta as wanted. We said this one there was difficult. We support OSP. We want OSP to succeed because when it does, it helps all of us. But this particular one there, it was difficult. So we can leave it at that. We don't need to rehash the argument. Yeah.
I see, but now he has removed Ken Oforiatta off the wanted list because he has details of the specific dates that he is arriving in the jurisdiction. Is that enough? I mean, assurance for you as you were seeking of what the OSP is going to do going forward in this case?
Yes, it should be sufficient now, unless I get new facts. It should be sufficient because what has come out is that you can see this declaration of Oforiatta as being wanted is hurting his commercial interest. He's a businessman. So where he goes all over the internet, everywhere is saying that he's a fugitive from justice. It's not good for his business. So once Ken Oforiatta knows that the OSC can do that again in future, I'm sure he will not dare do that. So it's a business decision for Oforiatta to quickly come back and say he will avail himself. So now at least he knows.
Then quickly, before you leave us, today the president declared his assets. And he has given a direct order to his appointees. Declare your assets by March 31 or face dismissal. That's according to the president. In fact, he says that this is in line with the dictates of Act 550. That's the Declaration of Assets and Disqualification Law. Let's hear from John Mahama first, and then we'll have a conversation about whether the March 31 deadline is one that is going to make any specific difference in the fight against corruption. We'll recall that shortly. There's a little challenge with the voice clip. But first off, Lamatic Bebo, the March 31 deadline giving to that the president gave to his appointees to declare their assets. Is it one that at least is good, an indication in the fight against corruption? Because this is one I know that you've been on consistently about the asset declaration law in its current state and the fact that it is not effective really in the fight against corruption.
Yeah, the March 31st deadline is not looking good. It's not looking good because with due respect to President JM, we had consistently pointed out that the Constitution, Article 286 plus 1, says that rather the assets must be declared before the person takes office. The Constitution is very clear. Let me see if I can get a copy to read. That it says it must be before. So elsewhere, I've stated that generally, so you have a presidential press corps. So maybe table a question through them so that on behalf of the people of Ghana, they will ask a question on the press. They will ask President JM to answer that. Look, 286 plus 1. Let me read it. It says, a person who holds a public office mentioned in clause 1 of this article shall submit to the Auditor General a written declaration of all property or assets owned by or liabilities owed by him, whether directly or indirectly. A, within 3 months after the coming into force of this Constitution, or before taking office. Let's see again, the part that applies. Or before taking office, as the case may be. Obviously, the Constitution came into force in 1993. The 3 months doesn't apply. So is this one, or before taking office. Then there is at the end of every 4 years, and then at the end of his term of office. So this one is too clear. So the president needs to do something about it. Given the extension to March 31st, doesn't look tidy. Yes, I'm aware there's a mistake that was made in the Act 550. That's the Public Office Declaration of Assets Law. But the thing is that the Constitution is clear in Article 1 that it's the Constitution that's the supreme law. So any law that's inconsistent with the Constitution is null and void. That's Article 1, Clause 2. So let's see. I believe, considering the mandate JM won, very huge mandate. So it knows that today Ghana has changed. This is not just an NDC government. This is the people of Ghana's government. So President Mahama is giving 31st March. We, the people, are saying, Mr. President, Adabraka, that would be too flagrant a violation of the Constitution. And the president sometimes, is busy there. Mistakes happen. We lawyers, a lot of us, we go to court. There's mistakes here and there. So for me, I think that we should just draw his attention and then something will be done. Because March 31st is too far. And besides, now let's look at the practical side of it. We are trying to use the Asset Declaration Law as a tool against corruption. Now, you ask the businessmen, don't come on record, but off record, they can give you some education here and there. When a minister or CEO takes office, the vendors, that's the contractors who do business there, quickly they line up to see the minister. Contractors like giving a lot of gifts. We can't hide. We have to say some of these things because if you don't, these are democracy involved. So if you allow a minister in office for even 1 week, the damage would have been done. Once the contractors get to see the minister, forget. Some can look and project. You can cut deals. Look, let me tell you. Depending on how much the budget is, and you can even, assuming last year, maybe that ministry, the budget was 16 million. If you like, you can even cut down that, this year, maybe because of the IMF, blah, 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 maybe we'll further cut down. So you can bring the budget down to 40 million. Based upon it, there are contractors you can sit around the table with and do some projections. Say, Minister, by the time I'm done this year, you'll get not less than 10 million Ghana, etc. These are just examples. So listen, we are joking. It's a huge joke if you allow a minister to go into office for even 1 day before the assets are declared. As long as the minister meets contractors, the vendors, that's all. Yeah, things can be arranged. Look, let's not, you see, as I keep saying, I voted for JM, and I didn't hide it openly. I used to say that I will not vote for Baumia, I'll vote for JM, etc. So it's in the same spirit that we are tackling this issue. You see how the president also said it, that he too is in favor of publication. I'm sure that's the next chapter of our questions, right?
Indeed.
So, yes, so the point I'm making is that JM himself as president has seen the weaknesses in the law. And so I'm also pointing out to President JM that, no, if you allow a minister to take office even 1 week before he declares assets, please, then forget, it's a lost cause. If you meet a contractor, the major ones who have done work for the ministry the previous year, Charlie, things can be looked. You just do rough estimates. Charlie, so what do you say? Yeah, by end of year, you make X minimum. So based on the minimum, I can fill the form. You hear Dom Leveau talk about anticipatory declaration. Anticipatory. So you can declare in an anticipatory manner. A house you don't own, you can put details, etc., knowing that this is the one you target. We are joking. Honestly, if you allow an appointee to be in office 1 week before you submit, then you are just joking. Yeah, you don't mean it. Then forget it. So I think, as I mentioned earlier, let them draw the president's attention. Let the people, their presidential correspondents, they are these there. So let them ask the president that, listen. And don't forget, you see, as I mentioned, let's be very practical. We don't want theories. Let's be very practical. Business, you see, a lot of business thrives on gifts, etc., to open the doors. These things, they are in the books. Businesses are accepted. They say it even in the last administration, Kufuor's administration. Remember the famous businessman who went to parliament with so much money, etc. So listen, we are talking practical. This is a law. And then let's add this. The reason why market is success doesn't also jive is that I've been saying it, that those lobbying for positions, the lobbying is not done overnight too.
Right.
And because the forms don't cost money, why don't you, at the time you start lobbying, go to Auditor General's office and get a form? If Auditor General thinks that, let's say, and I'll use one example, I'll assume that for one position, even if there are 100 people lobbying, the forms don't cost. If Auditor General thinks that for one position, 100 people picking the form will cost the state too much, Auditor General can start selling the forms, 5 cities, 10 cities, even 100 Ghana.
Right.
And so, while you are lobbying, you are failing. So you have no excuse that,
it's going to take that long.
That's why we say everybody, the form is not costing an arm and a leg. Once you are lobbying, you are failing.
Okay. Hold on a bit for me. Mr. You also agree that March 31 deadline is too far, or it's one that is within reasonable time for the president to have all his appointees declare the assets?
Well, I guess, the fact that the president has shown leadership by example is important to commend. I think that it will be good if there was some effort to try and align with the constitutional provision. And I think it is practical. I think when you are vetted or appointed, you should be able within 24 to 40. In fact, to the extent that they engage you to say they want to appoint you, that is the point at which you should begin to put together this assets list, because eventually it will happen. And from the point of engaging and asking you whether you are available and they can appoint you, it probably will take a couple of days, sufficient enough for you to have finished this and to file it. So I align with Martin when he says it should be practical. And the president, mindful of the Constitution, should make some effort to tell people to speed up. I think that this is the first time we've had this done this way. Hopefully we will all get it right in the future, and the Constitutional Review Committee can help us to improve the alignment between the various laws, administrative processes, and the constitutional provision.
I appreciate your time for this. Adam Sanano, co-chair of the Citizens Movement Against Corruption. But Sanano, there are those who also, Lawyer Matik Bebo, there are those who also would hold the view that to the extent that this is a constitutional provision, that publication requirement is not law yet. So let the Constitutional Review Commission do their work. The Constitution is reviewed and the law captures that before that is considered. Just on the back of the reference of the Constitutional Review's work that that's Adam Sanano just referenced.
Well, this one, my answer to it is that, you remember President Buhari in Nigeria, when he won in Nigeria at that time, it was not compulsory. There was no need for publication. But Buhari went ahead and published his assets straight. It was in Daily Graphic. I remember I even snapped it. It was on my phone. I'm sure a lot of Ghanaians, even if you Google today, will see it on the net. Buhari took the initiative and published. So saying it's not in the Constitution doesn't move it forward. It's just like, you see what Dr. Dominic Ayeni did by giving reasons for the nolle prosequas and the withdrawals. You see that Dr. Ayeni moved our Constitution forward. And, Ayeni is going to continue to get a lot of credit. His reputation has soared, and it's going to be there for history. Generations will come and read that here came Dr. Dominic Ayeni, who, though there was no constitutional requirement to explain nolle prosequa and withdrawals, went ahead and did it, blah, blah, blah. So, you see, JM is listening. I keep making the point, and it's good to keep repeating ourselves. This government is not just an NDC government. It's a government of Ghana, proper, so to speak, right? You see how Ghanaians, people who didn't like JM, etc. Today I was watching a clip where Owusu Bimpa Akufo-Addo's pastor said Akufo-Addo is such a wicked man. It's more king. And I didn't know JM is such a good man. And that he was misled by Wuntumi, etc. They said, take, I can send it to you. I saw it this morning before entering court. So you see such people, and I can give 1,001 examples. People have come to support JM. These mistakes happen. I'm sure if you draw his attention, you ask, he will come back, he will reverse course, because he himself knows. And we keep saying it. As a nation, we've not yet understood the election results NDC got. I shouldn't say NDC as a nation we got. It belongs to all of us. Ghanaians have shown that we are no longer glued to one political party. You know, until this thing, the history we're taught, the wisdom is that political science, when you go, they will tell you that, oh, NDC is largely 45%, NPP largely 45%, then 10% for floating voters and the other smaller parties. But that theory has been thrown out. It's been thrown out with a gap of over 1.6 million. They've thrown out the received wisdom. So Ghana itself, we have not yet understood what we did on December 7th. But at least so far it's becoming clear to us that we've become a real nation. We've integrated. We are looking beyond party lines, you see. So on this basis, if you draw JM's attention that, oh, Mr. President, no, this March 31st year is too much of a slap in the face of the Constitution. I don't think you have a problem reversing course. It's not a problem. I don't expect him to be obstinate and say no, like Akufo-Addo refused to let us have the election of MNDCs on non-partisan lines when the polls showed that citizens didn't want politics, like partisan politics at the district assembly. No, JM cannot do that. The mandate that the people of Ghana have given him, it's not just an NDC mandate. This is the whole of Ghana. So let's leave it here. Let's draw his attention. I don't think this is difficult. Look, we, as a lawyer, go to court. I can't win all the cases. Sometimes you make mistakes. Sometimes you forget. It's human nature. So he can reverse it. But we cannot certainly allow March 31st to be the deadline. It doesn't look good. No, it doesn't.
Right. Counsel, appreciate your time on this. As always, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Martin Pebu is private legal practitioner. Adam Senanos, the co-chair of the Citizens Movement Against Corruption, is live here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. This is what the President, John Dramani Mahama, said when he submitted his asset declaration form to the Auditor General, Johnson Ekwamwa Esiedu.
There are many people in public office. So there must be a reminder to all these people that they are covered under the Assets Declaration regime. And so I have presented mine this morning, and let me make a few remarks. Senior government officials present, the Auditor General and staff of your department, we're very happy to have you here. There are many people in the presidency, friends of the media. I've just performed a simple but brief, very important act of presented my completed assets declaration forms to the Auditor General to all these by Article 286 of the 1992 Constitution and the Public Office Holders Declaration of Assets and Disqualifications Act 1998, Act 550. Ghana's assets declaration regime and its related activities have often been shrouded in secrecy and only.
And the Auditor General, Johnson Ekwamwa, has backed the President's call for the publication of asset declarations by public officers.
What we are looking at is whether you have not left any blank spaces, whether you have not left your bank balances. Some may list all the banks that they have, but there will be no balances at it, and we will call you to come and redo it. That's the extent to which we do this. If you say you have 10 bank accounts and you bring it to us, how are we to be sure that indeed it is only 10 bank accounts that you have? If you say you have 2 buildings, what can we do to ensure that it is exactly the 2 buildings that you have? So reviewing the Constitution, as His Excellency has said, I think it's a very, very important issue that we have to take seriously. And we also support the publishing. If you submit your assets and declaration forms, we should be able to publish it freely. And the time that you are leaving office too, we'll publish it to see the changes that have happened ever since you started in the office. So,
As the Auditor General there. It's live here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7, also on Kesme 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. We're live on W 93.5 in 1 beyond. President John Dramani Mahama has given the strongest indication of prioritizing the ideas and recommendations collected from the National Education Forum, which kicked off today, Tuesday, February 18. The president established an 8-member committee to travel across the country to gather ideas on how to transform the education sector. The committee, led by Professor George K. Teodoro, a former pro-vice chancellor of the University of Cape Coast, has been given 2 weeks to submit a comprehensive plan based on the forum's discussion. Speaking on the opening ceremony today, President John Mahama assured that his government is committed to implementing the outcome of the forum.
It's a big question of how to ensure provision of a balanced education for Ghana's children and our young people, an education that transforms them into globally competitive citizens, an education system that prepares them adequately and nurtures them as Ghanaians with uncompromising values and character qualities of honesty, creativity, and responsible citizenship, and with the 21st century skills of problem solving and critical thinking. An education system that ensures that our leaders by age 10 are well-grounded and proficient in language literacy, mathematics literacy, scientific literacy, and cultural literacy as the foundation for their future learning. As a government, we are fully committed to this process, and the outcomes of this conference, I assure you that your recommendations are not going to gather dust on a shelf. They will not become symbolic recommendations, but they will form the foundation of a comprehensive reform agenda to build an inclusive, equitable, and transformative education system for Ghana and for the benefit of all Ghanaians. And so we'll prioritize the actionable reforms proposed here with clear timelines and measurable outcomes to guide our steps. Regular updates on progress will be shared with the public to build trust and transparency. We'll increase the allocation of resources to critical areas, including foundational learning, with a focus on the 4 literacies that I talked about: language, mathematics, science, and culture. Teacher education and capacity development would also receive attention. Infrastructure development and education technology also included.
And as President John Dramani Mahama there, he also apologized to the Christian Council of Ghana and the Ghana Catholic Bishops' Conference for the delay in extending invitations to them for the ongoing National Education Forum. His apology followed concerns raised by the 2 Christian bodies who expressed disappointment over their exclusion from discussions on the Ghana education reforms.
But first, let me express my sincerest apologies on behalf of the Planning Committee of the Forum to our stakeholders of the faith-based organizations for the unpardonable omission committed in your delayed invitation to this forum. I am aware that the omission was very speedily remedied, but you still deserve an unqualified apology for this oversight. And since you are the purveyors of God's mercy on earth, I'm sure that you are forgiving us. And we know you are important stakeholders because you own some of the schools, and so this educational forum is important to see how we carry everybody together.
As President John Dramani Mahama there, Faisal Abdul is our Volta regional correspondent, and he's joining us on the telephone shortly to have a quick conversation on this. And this forum is one that has generated a number of expectations as well. So that's one that will engage Faisal on it shortly. Faisal Abdullah is our correspondent joining us on the telephone right now. Faisal, good evening. Thank you for joining us. Now, what has been the major talking points after the president opened this forum today?
Thank you, Alfred. And so we do know that the forum is a consultative one that is creating a platform for key stakeholders in the area of education to make input into Ghana's education and also make input into what we should do as a nation to address the challenges that confront the educational sector in the areas of financing, the areas of infrastructure, governance, accountability, among others. The key takeaway from today's forum, which was the opening ceremony, has to do with the free SHS policy. Almost everybody who spoke today spoke about the free SHS policy and how it is implemented currently. But what stood out and has since endangered some form of conversation is the advocacy from Professor Agyeman, one of the keynote speakers, who indicated today that the current form in which we run the free SHS policy is not sustainable. It is one that can collapse because in its current form, it only burdens government. He is of the view that as a state, individuals who are parents should bear some form of responsibility for the education of their wards. He cited several examples, including the issue, the model in Australia, where he's talking about the fact that we should design a model where the affluent in society are able to pay for the education of their wards. Those in the middle income zone pay something. Those who do not earn any income at all are within the lower income zone, allow free to allow their wards to go to school free. So it should be a 3-tier sort of a model where all categories of persons find themselves within this net, that if you are affluent enough and can afford it, you allow you pay for the education of your wards. So for him, what we're doing currently is not sustainable. Going forward, it may not be something that will be able to contain. He projected the numbers and look at the fact that if we are to add on to the numbers in the years to come, it means the government will have to cough up so much money to educate the people, and which is not the case to go with. The same issue Professor Echampo also raised when he took the stage as one of the keynote speakers, indicating that today what we do is some form of, alleviating the burden that comes with education for the rich people, while we continue to burden the poor people. What he indicated is that even though children do not pay fees anymore, particularly at the free SHS level, the cost that comes with feeding and other stuff that students have to buy before they go to school is borne by parents. And if you look at the parents we are talking about, some are people who can afford, some cannot afford. And so the state in which we run our free SHS policy currently is not one that is equitable, and we must take a second look at it and ensure that while some people pay for it, some do not pay. He also is of the view that in some other affluent countries, they do not give everything for free, and particularly for education that we spend so much on, the country must take a second look at the state in which our free SHS policy is in currently, so that we do not, in the long run, run it aground. So these are the, free SHS, the way it is implemented currently, how it is financed, and what the future may look like, has become the real topic of discussion today from the start of the opening of the National Education Forum going into the conversations tomorrow. Right.
I see. And apart from the professor whom you just referenced, who are the others who are speaking as well or have been contributing to that whole idea or proposal of the review of the financing structure of the free senior high school policy?
Yeah, so for the opening ceremony, we had two key speakers, and from apart from the two speakers, there was Toby Apede, who spoke earlier as the chairperson for the ceremony. He touched on a similar thing and called for a review of the policy. Toby Apede indicated that the implementation of the free SHS policy was rushed to the extent that we did not foresee the challenges that would come with it. And today, the policy and its implementation is bedeviled largely with so many challenges hinged on financing. So you realize that the three key persons that spoke today were so focused on how to improve upon the implementation of the free SHS policy. And then, before the free SHS policy, before you get to SHS, you are coming from the basic level. How do we finance basic education properly, providing the necessary infrastructure, providing the necessary training and on-the-job training for teachers, providing the necessary tools in terms of welfare, among others, to ensure that we have a holistic, well-refined educational system starting from the basic level. So whereas they were talking about the free SHS policy and looking at the quality of each going forward, they're also looking at the fact that if we are to have an educational system that produce children, in for the future, that are skilled, that are good for the demands of the current work environment, then we would have to take a closer look at our basic education, put in proper reforms and transformational moves to ensure that right from the beginning we are producing people who in the future will be fit for the job market.
Appreciate you for this update. And tomorrow, I know you certainly will be there, and we'll be getting some more updates on this. Faisal Abdullah is our Volta Regional correspondent. It's live here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7, also on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. We're live on W 93.5 in One Beyond. Government has also promised to revive the Japan textile factory after years of neglect. The factory, which produces some 20 million yards of grey baft annually for the print fabric industry, has collapsed as it's not been in operation since July 2023. The Minister for Trade, Agribusiness and Industry, Elizabeth Ofosojari, and the CEO of the Ghana Export-Import Bank, Sylvester Tete, visited the facility to assess its state. Managing Director of the facility, Jerome Koku, said reviving the factory would employ hundreds of workers.
Yeah, we have a very huge, I must say, overwhelming market for our products. We do the fabric construction, and the likes of GTP and ATL Printex, they do the printing and dyeing. And so we're the only people in the country producing the fabric. And so the demand is all on us. They keep calling us every now and then, asking, when are you coming back? When are you going to give us some grey baft? So the demand is overwhelming. Apart from this ones, all the schools, secondary or second cycle schools and third cycle schools are demanding fabric from us for their practical works. The hospitals are demanding fabrics from us for their beds. Even the mines are demanding fabrics for their gold dust bags. The flour mills are demanding fabric from us for their bags. A lot of demand is on us for our fabrics. Right. The Kente weavers want our fabric to line their smocks. A lot of people keep asking for. So the demand on us is really, really overwhelming.
That's the CEO there, and Minister for Trade and Agribusiness, Elizabeth Ofosojari, said there are several options on the table, including private-public partnership for reviving the Japan textile factory.
It will be recalled that Excellency John Dramani Mahama promised the people of Ghana that in the first 120 days, he's going to look at all the SOEs and see the way forward. Japan is one such enterprise. We came here today to see the current state of the industry. It will be recalled that GTP, ATL, Printers, some schools depend on the grey baft from this company. Anytime Japan is not working, you realize that the cost of production for these companies becomes high because they have to import the grey baft. We as a country are interested in import substitution. The more reason why Japan has to come on stream. So we're going to look at it, have a proper audit and see our way forward. The MD has suggested that PPP should be an option that we should look at. We will look at it holistically. Our main aim is to make sure that Japan comes back on stream, to employ the teeming youth, to make sure that our CD is more stable.
as a minister there. And that leads us to the business news with Bismarck Iwusa right after this quick break. Stay with us here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. We're live on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and beyond, and also on W 93.5 in Wa and beyond. And remember, you can also share your thoughts, views, comments, and opinions with us and read out to you and to the rest of the world.
Achimota School, the beacon of leadership, bounteous fountain of excellence and discipline, prodigious source of living water to a thirsty land, proudly celebrates its 98th Founders Day, organized by the OA's 75, 85, 2000 year groups with an exciting lineup of activities. Join us on Wednesday, 5th March as the 75 and 85 year groups hand over their legacy project donated to the school. 1.5 million cedis worth of science equipment as part of a STEM fund for Achimota School. The originators of the Bonfire Night then put on a show on Friday, 7th March, an entertaining carnival comprising a torchlight procession, Bonfire Night, masqueraders, and a spectacular brass band, all hosted by the 2000 year group Y2G. Saturday, 8th March is the big day when we host an impressive cadet corps display at 8:30 a.m. crowned with the ever-popular Founders Day Derby at 2 p.m. We finish with the Thanksgiving service on the 9th of March at the iconic Agri Chapel. Let's come together to honor the founders of Ghana's greatest school. These events are proudly powered by OA 75, 85, 2000. See you at Achimota School, where leaders are made. A Bafig Bay.
Accra gets busy on this frequency. 92.7 3FM.
Hello, good evening and welcome to the business segment on Hot Edition with me, Bismarck Iwusa. Coming up tonight, Minister of Energy and Green Transition, John Jinapor, reveals plans to tackle rising fuel costs through setting up of stakeholder committee. Thanks for your company. Now to the very first story. Energy and Green Transition Minister John Jinapor has reaffirmed his ministry's commitment to tackling the rising fuel cost in Ghana. He announced plans to establish a stakeholder committee to propose practical solutions to ease the burden on consumers. John Jinapor made these remarks at the Chamber of Oil Marketing Companies COMAC Downstream Dialogue, where industry players gathered to discuss key challenges in the downstream petroleum sector.
This government, through the Ministry of Energy and Green Transition, is committed to extensive consultation and collaboration with these sector agencies and petroleum service providers, as well as stakeholders, to improve service delivery in the petroleum downstream sector. In this regard, the ministry is in the process of constituting a petroleum downstream review committee with representation from key stakeholders in the sector to advise the ministry on the way forward. And as you may be aware, we've written to most of the sector agencies and stakeholders to submit names of representatives so that together we can brainstorm, consult, review, and chart a path that will make this sector better for all of us. This process, I believe, will ultimately result in the promulgation of a holistic downstream law aimed at comprehensively regulating the downstream sector, which will ultimately cover key areas such as refining, distribution, marketing, price build-up, and retail of petroleum products.
And that was Energy and Green Transition Minister John Jinapor reaffirming plans to tackle rising fuel costs through the setting up of a stakeholder committee. In another development, in a major leadership shift at the Millennium Development Authority, MIDA, Alexander Mode has been appointed as Acting Chief Executive Officer. With over 3 decades of experience in finance, energy, and governance, Mr. Mode is expected to drive MIDA's alignment with government priorities and enhance its role in national development. The following 3 Business News Desk report has more. The Millennium Development Authority, MIDA, has a new Acting Chief Executive Officer. Alexander Mode has taken over the role bringing extensive experience from both the private and public sectors. Mr. Mould has pledged to synchronize MEDA's activities with the government's broader development agenda. He emphasized the importance of working closely with ministries to identify and manage strategic projects, ensuring effective implementation and tangible results. Expressing gratitude to President Mahama for the opportunity, Mr. Mould outlined his vision to transform MEDA into a world-class project implementation agency. He aims to position the organization as the government's primary unit for executing flagship initiatives, including the 24-hour economy agenda. His appointment signals a renewed focus on efficiency and strategic collaboration, marking a potentially transformative period for MEDA. And that was a 3 Business News Desk report. Insurance brokers have welcomed President John Mahama's appointment of Reverend Dr. Abiba Zakaria as Acting Commissioner of Insurance. The seasoned insurance professional with over 25 years' experience in insurance and risk management faces a major test as she steps into office amid key policy decisions, including 10% motor insurance tariff hike. Speaking to 3 Business, President of Insurance Brokers Association of Ghana, IBAC, Shaibu Ali, said members look at the future of the insurance industry under Dr. Zakaria's regulation with optimism.
The appointment of Dr. Abiba Zakaria as a Commissioner of Insurance is apt. For us, we have been used to the old commissioner who has done so much for us and would have wished for him to continue. However, with Abiba coming into the position, I think is a perfect replacement for him. Abiba brings so much experience from the direct insurance side, from the reinsurance side, from international business as well. And she has so much maturity. And above all, Abiba is tough. Abiba is a tough one to deal with. I have dealt with her in her days at Ghana Re, and I know what I'm talking about. So for us as brokers, fingers crossed, we look forward to the future of this industry with so much optimism. And we know that with the needed support of all the stakeholders, Abiba will take us places.
And that was President of Insurance Brokers Association of Ghana, IBAC, Shaibu Ali, ending the business segment on Hot Edition with me, Bismarck Awusa. For more business stories, please visit our website 3news.com. Oreku Ampofo is next with the sport. Do stay.
Of the teams in a 3FM 60-day Fit Start Challenge. Which team will come up tops? Will it be Team Comfort or Team Helen? Will age and tact triumph? Or will youth and energy win? Call or WhatsApp on these numbers: 0532 300 927 or 0532 200 927. Now, to join Team Comfort or Team Helen and enjoy holistic wellness coaching, specialized diet plans, and cooking tutorials, thrilling exercises, challenges, and activities, plus many exciting rewards. 3FM Fit Start, sponsored by Daffy's Health and Beauty, Bill's Microfinance and UGEL Premier, and supported by Blue Skies and the Ghana Medical Association. 3FM Fit Start, your health, your journey, your victory.
3 FM.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to the sports segment here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. My name is Oreku Ampofo. Let's turn our attention to the Sunyani District Court B, where on Monday they granted a bail of 300,000 Ghana cedis with 2 sureties to 42-year-old police inspector Agyeman, who is on trial for the murder in connection with the insuratory case where an affectionate Asante Kotoko fan Nana Pole lost his life. However, the court denied bail to 3 other suspects, namely Isaac Fosu, Augustine Yeboah, and Yao Koshi, ordering that they remain in police custody. My colleague Richard Echampon, who covers Kotoko for us, has more details.
So in court, 2 separate cases were called, and the same judge took decisions on the 2 cases. Remember, 3 suspects were arrested initially, including former minister and former member of parliament, Honorable Ignatius Balfour, together with 1 chairman, and the other suspect being Agyeman, who was in police custody for the past 2 weeks. In the first case, Agyeman was granted bail after his lawyers appealed to the judge that they had already filed the bail application and submitted same to the Attorney General's Department. But unfortunately, the Attorney General's Department had not filed any affidavit in opposition to the motion the lawyers had filed for bail for Agyeman. The second case involved 4 other suspects: Ya Santua, Elizabeth, Akusia Ntriwa, Akusia Black Chinese. Then there was Yeboah, Augustine, and Isaac Fosu. The good news is that another suspect, a key suspect as such, has been arrested and was presented to court yesterday. His name is Yao Koshi, and he is suspected to be very close ally of the main suspect, Brima, who, as we speak, police says they are still chasing to arrest him. In that second case also, the judge has already granted bail to the 2 ladies, Ya Santua and Akusia Black Chinese. The 3 other suspects were remanded into police custody to reappear on the 3rd of March. And so that is what actually transpired in court yesterday. Asante Koroko's communications director and legal affairs manager, Lawyer Safuduku, was there, and then he reports that they are satisfied so far with the process that has been going on by the courts and also from the police investigations team.
And so that was Richard Echampon with the latest from the court case. However, we still stay on the situation because Asante Kotoko have just a few minutes ago confirmed that they will resume first team training on Wednesday. However, the club maintains its stance of not competing in any official game until meaningful and decisive actions are taken to suggest and secure justice for the late Nana Pole. Remember that all Ghana Premier League matches have since been postponed in the past couple of weeks, and so that's the latest on the trial case for Nana Pole, and also with regards to the Ghana Premier League. Remember that the JFA Asante Kotoko and then Heart of Folk had a meeting yesterday to continue deliberations on the way forward and potentially when the league could also return. Let's now talk about European football and move away from the local setting to Europe, where Liverpool boss Arne Slot has said that it would be completely surprising to see if Marcus Rashford does not impress during his loan spell at Aston Villa. Rashford was loaned out to the Villains during the winter transfer window after finding it difficult to impress new Manchester United boss Ruben Amorim. Slot's comment comes on the eve of Villa's game against Liverpool on Wednesday.
The first time, of course, I know Marcus Rashford because I followed the Premier League, but the first time I faced him real life was in the USA tour. And I was impressed. I was really impressed how fast he is, how he has a nice height, he's comfortable with the ball. So I think he's a very good player. And I hope for him as well that he's going to show that at Villa. Of course, I'm not hoping that he will do this tomorrow, but I would be completely surprised if a player of that quality is not going to show this in the upcoming months, because he's a very good player in my opinion.
So that was Arne Slot. Remember that Liverpool face Aston Villa in the Premier League on Wednesday evening. We'll be building up to that one, especially on 3 Sports. But let's move to the Champions League, where there is playoff action starting tonight, with second leg fixtures set to unfold. Now, a number of teams are in action, including European giants Bayern Munich and AC Milan. But the spotlight will be in Spain on Wednesday, where Real Madrid face Manchester City in the biggest clash of the round. Madrid hold a narrow 3-2 advantage from the first leg. Ahead of the playoff ties, sports journalist Michael Otieje and CEO of Back Group Dr. Ernest Cranting provide a detailed assessment of the Champions League.
I think it will be out of it. I think if anybody, again, is capable of going to the Bernabeu and winning, it's Prime City. Yeah. City have not been in prime form, but this City team can turn up a good performance. We saw it against Newcastle. People will say Newcastle is not Real Madrid. But if there's one thing I've known for a very long time in football, I know that the peak of challenges always brings the best out in teams like City. A team like City is a team that's got it within them to be able to win at the Bernabeu. And whilst I think Real Madrid are favourites, I don't think it will be as straightforward as a lot of people have suggested it will be. I don't think it will be at all.
I agree.
You also agree?
It could go either way. But you've got to tip Real Madrid as the favourite going into the game. It's their home game. They know how to win such games. But City can do it as well. I'm also interested in the Dortmund game. Garcia is having a great season.
I don't think we talk about him enough on the continent.
We don't at all. But he's a prolific scorer. What he does simply is to put the ball at the back of the net. And you see, this is a Dortmund. The last 10 to 12 years has struggled to get a striker to put the ball at the back of the net aside Haaland.
Yeah.
And Garcia is doing that. We've got to give it up to him. 10 goals in 8 games for Dortmund, and it looks like having one away 3-0 or so. They are home and they're winning this. I will be worried if Milan don't start well against Feyenoord, because if we don't, then we don't go through at
I actually want Feyenoord to win that because that's Ibrahim Osman. He was that Arsenal to Thomas Partey.
So if Milan fails to win, because of Osman,
then the pain will be eased.
But he's got to play. He was playing consistently, and I think he got the injury.
He came in about 20 minutes in the
and I'm looking forward to him playing more. You see the guy on the ball, and you say, wow.
I watched one of their Champions League games, and his turn of pace.
Osman
was unbelievable.
And so that was Michael Otieje and then Ernest Cranting. But before we go, let's do some tennis because Novak Djokovic has been in the news, especially after Jannik Sinner was announced that Sinner will serve a 3-month ban from tennis after reaching an agreement with WADA following 2 positive drug tests in 2024. The world number 1 cannot play until May 4, but will be eligible to return ahead of the French Open on May 25. In view of the world number 7, Novak Djokovic has slammed this act, saying that it's not a good image for the sport.
I've seen the news, and particularly the 2 cases of Iga Swiatek and Jannik Sinner have attracted a lot of attention, and it's not a good image for our sport, that's for sure. There's a consensus, or I would say a majority of the players that I've talked to in the locker room, not just in the last few days, but also last few months, that are not happy with the way this whole process has been handled. The majority of the players doesn't feel that it's fair. Majority of the players feel like there is favorism happening. It seems like it appears that you can almost affect the outcome if you're a top player, if you have access to the top lawyers and whatnot. Swiatek and Sinner are innocent, and it's proven, unless it's proven otherwise. So right now we know they're innocent, and Sinner's got suspension for 3 months because of the mistakes and the negligence of his team members that are working on the tour. So that's also something that I personally and a lot of players find a bit strange. That, also the fact that there's so much inconsistencies between the cases. So we've seen on the social media Simona Halep and Tara Moore and some other players that are maybe less known that have been struggling to resolve their cases for years or have gotten the ban for years. And I think, right now it's a ripe time for us to really address the system, because the system and the structure obviously doesn't work of anti-doping. It's obvious. So I hope that in the next period of the near future that the governing bodies are going to come together of our tours and the tennis ecosystem and try to find a more effective way to deal with these processes. We have to choose. The inconsistency is something that frustrates all the...
And that's the note on which we wrap up the sports edition, sports here on Hot Edition. My name is Ore Kwampofo, and you can get more updates on our social media handles at 3SportsGH. I'll be back again, same time again tomorrow to bring you the latest in the world of sports.
In a 3FM 60-day Fit Start Challenge. Which team will come up tops? Will it be Team Comfort or Team Helen? Will age and tact triumph? Or will youth and energy win? Call or WhatsApp on these numbers: 0532 300 927 or 0532 200 927. Now, to join Team Comfort or Team Helen and enjoy holistic wellness coaching, specialized diet plans, and cooking tutorials, thrilling exercises, challenges, and activities, plus many exciting rewards. 3FM Fit Start, sponsored by Daffy's Health and Beauty, Bill's Microfinance and Ugel Premier, and supported by Blue Skies and the Ghana Medical Association. 3FM Fit Start, your health, your journey, your victory.
Live on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7, also on Kesme 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. We're live on W93.5 in Wa and beyond. There is some breaking news coming through right now.
Breaking news on 3FM 92.7.
The President, John Dramani Mahama, is about swearing in the Council of State. In the next few minutes, we'll cross over to the presidency for that particular event, the swearing in of the Council of State. And we are getting information that the chair of the Council of State of President John Mahama will be Right Honorable Edward Do Ajaho, former Speaker of Parliament, and also a former member of Parliament as well. And that Council of State will be effectively constituted by these persons: Justice Sophia Ekufo, a former Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana, will be a member of John Dramani Mahama's Council of State, essentially advising the President. Justice Sophia Ekufo will represent the Eastern region. Mohammed Ahmed Al-Hassan, former Inspector General of Police, would also be on the Council of State. And Air Marshal Michael Sampson, retired, former Chief of Defense Staff, would also represent the Council of State. Ojiahoho Iyaojebi, the second President of the National House of Chiefs, would also be a member of the Council of State, specifically for institutional representation. For the 10 other nominees by the President, Dasibre Boama Dakon Also, Chief of Agyeman Kukurenchumi will be on the Council of State. Osaberima Kwesiata II, Paramount Chief of the Ogwa Traditional Area, and Justice Vida Amankwa Akoto Bamfo, a former Justice of the Supreme Court of Ghana, beg your pardon, that's former Justice of the Supreme Court of Ghana, Justice Vida Amankwa Nia Akoto Bamfo, and also would have Mr. Cletus Avoka, former Member of Parliament for the Zebela constituency, is also a nominee of the President on the Council of State. Next, we have Dr. Eunice Brookman Emisa, a former Minister of Health, also nominated by the President on the Council of State. Betty Modi Drisu, former Attorney General, has also been nominated by the President to be on the Council of State. Cynthia Komle Ajite, and also Mrs. Molly Enim Ado, former ambassador. And finally, the 10th nominee by the President, Nanasa Ajemfua, the second, the Queen Mother of Agyeman Traditional Area, for the regional representation on the Council of State. Today, in fact, yesterday, we saw the election of the Ashanti Regional Council of State member. That was indeed what was pending as of yesterday, but that process was effectively concluded with the former Ashanti Regional Chairman of the NDC elected as the representative for the Ashanti region on the Council of State. So all 16 regional representatives will be adored today by the President shortly. But let's go to Parliament right now, and Christian Yale is there for us. And the details of it, we understand specifically with when Kenneth Oriata will be returning to the jurisdiction. We've got details of that. But before that, the Ghana Journalists Association says it will stop at nothing in securing justice for slain journalists and media practitioners assaulted in line of duty. It says assurances are not enough, promising to seek international legal redress in the case of deceased investigative journalists Ahmed Swale and Latif Idris, who was enduring a lifetime injury. Christian Yale reports that the GJA has called on the President and security to act immediately. He's joining us on the telephone right now. Christian, what more do we know about this demand from the GJA President?
Exactly, Alfred. So what we know is that the GJA is mounting a spirited campaign to ensure that all these journalists who have died in one way or the other or sustained life-threatening or life-enduring injuries are, given justice that they so deserve. Talking about the Ahmed Swale, the investigative journalist murder, for instance, using that as a case study, and the fact that over the years, all assurances given by the security as well as state actors have not been realized as of yet. So you recall that earlier in January, which was the very maiden press conference for 2025, the GJA made a case, and a strong one for that matter, that they are going to head to the ECOWAS Court of Justice should the police fail to act or provide any tangible evidence that leads to prosecution of suspects by end of March this year. They have reiterated the same point this time around and saying for a fact that they have received support from international partners on the Africa regional front as well as on the global stage who are willing to pursue the case of Ahmed Swale, for instance, to the very bottom. It mentions, for instance, the example of Latif Idris, a colleague who is currently dealing with a life-enduring injury and has to undertake series of surgeries overseas, oftentimes in order to, sustain his life, which is another issue that the Journalists Association, for instance, mentioned that is very troubling and worrying and seem not to get the needed attention. Now, Alfred, you remember, for instance, a few days ago, in the Council of State election which took place across the country, and in that specific matter of Ashanti region and how some 4 journalists were brutalized. Again, we had an instance in Waliwali where 2 journalists were reporting on the, burning of a bus were assaulted, which included a military officer. And so these are some of the cases which the GJA, for instance, mentioned that in less than 50 days into the administration of the NDC government, at least 7 cases of assault on journalists have been reported, which is raising serious concerns for the Journalists Association, which they believe that must be tackled and dealt with immediately without further delay.
Let's hear from the GJA president on these demands.
In the case of Ahmed Swali, our international partners, including the Federation of African Journalists, FAJ, and the International Federation of Journalists, IFJ, have also indicated their readiness to pursue justice for the investigative journalists at other international forums. Colleagues, I am here to report to you that just yesterday, I had a meeting with the Inspector General of Police, Dr. Ekufu Dampare, to discuss this and other matters. The IGP gave me heartwarming assurances in dealing with these issues, and to that extent, we wish to highly commend him. While holding the assurances of the IGP in good faith, we still remain faithful to our demands, and that if we don't see or hear anything concrete from the police after the end of March 2025, we shall proceed to the ECOWAS Community Court of Justice to find justice for Swali and Latif. Once again, we urge the Inspector General of Police, the Attorney General and Minister of Justice, and the President to take in interest in these cases. I must admit that the IGP assured us of his full cooperation going forward and promised to work closely with the GJA and its regional commanders in the regions where some journalists have been attacked.
As a GJA president there, but Christian, before I let you go, any specific deadlines to these demands?
Exactly. That deadline is simple, and it's one that by March 31st, 2025, there must be an action from the Ghana Police, as well as that petition that they are going to send to the Military High Command due to that specific case from Walwale, which involves a soldier. The GJA also says it is looking forward to the actions of the President, John Dramani Mahama, following some, assurances that he gave in the run-up to the 2024 election, in which assurances he made, for instance, and said that he is going to ensure the welfare and the interest of all journalists. They want to see those, words translate into action. They don't want to be given that understanding that the words of the president were just mere rhetoric. And so they are looking forward to that. So these are some of the things that the GJA concerns itself with, and it's looking forward to seeing that justice is ruthlessly secured for all journalists, whether slain or injured.
Christian Yale, appreciate you for this. Christian Yale is our reporter sitting through that GJA press conference, but still related to matters of the media. The Communications, Digital Technology and Innovation Minister Samuel Nate George has ordered the closure of 7 radio stations across the country. He stated that the decision was taken to enforce compliance with broadcasting regulations and national security requirements. Announcing the directive in a Facebook post on Tuesday, 18th February, the minister said, quote, "Today, in 2 separate cases, I have directed the National Communications Authority to suspend and enforce a prohibition of broadcast on 7 radio stations. These are the radio station Fire Group of Companies, Sunyai 90.1 FM megahertz, Isaiah Consult Limited Tamale 89.7, and Abo Channel Media Group at Dodeme, and also 105.7. and Ochiame Radio Limited in Bibiani 99.7, Momen Bono Foundation Techima 99.7, and Osikeni Community FM in Nkrankwanta 99.7 megahertz. These entities have failed to renew the authorizations, fulfill statutory payment obligations, or submit the required documentation within the stipulated time frame. As a result, the authorizations have elapsed by operations of law, rendering their continued operations illegal. And this, it says, is in accordance with Act 775. It is unlawful to operate a broadcasting service without valid frequency authorization. So that's coming through from the Communications Minister, Samuel Nate George. Now, the Health Minister, Komanami Takando, says the cholera and meningitis outbreaks in parts of the country are steadily improving, crediting stakeholder efforts for the progress. Concerns, however, remain over sanitation challenges, which continue to pose a threat to public health. This is said in Parliament earlier today.
The Minister of Health is in the House accordingly to brief the House. So, Honorable Minister, you are hereby invited to brief the House.
Right Honorable Speaker, I appear before you today to brief you and the people of Ghana on the ongoing outbreaks of cholera and meningitis. In October 2024, in Ada West, in the Greater Accra region, Mr. Speaker, since the outset in October 2024, it has unfortunately spread to other districts in Greater Accra and 4 other regions, namely Central, Western, Ashanti, and Eastern regions. Mr. Speaker, as of 13 February 2025, we have recorded 6,145 cases, 719 confirmed cases, and unfortunately 49 deaths. In all 5 regions have reported cases since the outbreak began. These are Greater Accra, Central, Western, Ashanti, and Eastern regions. Mr. Speaker, it is worth noting that the situation is improving, with active cases now concentrated in the Central region only. Mr. Speaker, allow me to elaborate on the situation in the Central region. This region has been particularly affected by the current outbreak, with significant number of cases reported in recent weeks. The district of Agona West and the Futu have been particularly hard hit. In the past week alone, these 2 districts reported 133 cases, 23 admissions, and unfortunately 2 deaths. Despite worrying situation in the Central region, Mr. Speaker, I bring encouraging news. New cholera cases are decreasing, and the district of Agona West and the Futu, which were initially hard hit, are now showing a decline in new cases. Mr. Speaker, as of 16 February, only Central region had active cases. The region reported a total of 28 active cases on admission, Efutu 18, Cape Coast 6, Agona West 4 cases. Mr. Speaker, the positive shift is a testament to the relentless effort of our health workers and partners who have been diligently implementing a robust response plan. This plan includes heightened surveillance to swiftly identify and manage cases, strengthen laboratory capacity for accurate and timely diagnosis, and environmental assessment to pinpoint and address risk factors. We have also established a cholera treatment centers and are conducting public awareness campaign to educate communities. The strategic deployment of oral cholera vaccines in high-risk areas is further contributing to this positive trend. Mr. Speaker, please permit me to now highlight the measures that have been taken to respond to this outbreak in order to bring it under control.
There's more news on this on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com. On behalf of the rest of the team, thank you for staying with us here on Hot Edition.